As soon as I open it, roaches. To where when I walked in the house,
did you scream?
You don't know my life, bro.
Welcome back to Econix Talks, guys.
When I pop up, everybody gonna be like, man, overnight success.
Lifestyle topics, entrepreneurship, and investing.
Are you serious about this? Because if you are, then I'm willing to back the business.
We want to inform you, educate you, and empower you so that you can maximize your life. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? I just wanted to check in really quick with you guys. This episode is one of my favorite interviews, but unfortunately it got cut short due to our internet connection cutting out and disconnecting our call. We were able to capture most of the interview, so I'm very, very appreciative of that. So enjoy, and this is Vernon Coleman from Realtime. Welcome back to another episode of Econix Talks, guys. Today, I have a really dope guest, man. I have Vernon Coleman. He is the creator and founder of Realtime. So he actually created an app, and I'll let him explain exactly what it does, but it does implement social media, the metaverse, the whole nine. So we're going to get into all the details and break down everything. But first, I want to break down like your background and, your come up, your story, just how did you get interested in this, and just bring me through that. Did you start entrepreneurship at, a young age when you were a kid? How were you introduced to that?
I think I definitely started at a young age. I was always interested in, first off, I grew up around my parents who were entrepreneurs and formerly in the Navy. And so I think that, I wanted to start a metal detector business when I was like 8 or 7. And then I know that I had the aspirations to go live on the moon when I was 5 or 6, according to my mom. And then I know I really wanted to start a car washing business when I was 12. And so my parents had me put together a business plan and all that stuff, which is so interesting because I've had a lot of people help me reflect, and particularly Black people help me reflect in the sense that like, that's not normal. Right. So like,
that's not, I was about to say that's not normal, bro.
Yeah. Like into my head, I'm like, oh, cool. Like it felt so, I guess to what I was always looking to, right. I'm always looking to like, I've been looking at Silicon Valley. Right. And so the economies of scale, the impact level to me is just like, yo, car wash, like that's nothing. That's like, so like all this stuff, I'm like comparing myself and making, the comparison and contrast that humans normally do, but I'm looking at the MJs of their game. Right. So it's like, it's very, I had to like kind of realize like, oh, it takes time to build to that. Yeah. Also, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could talk about there, but yeah, I feel like I've always been an entrepreneur. But I've always felt more identifying with the founder. And I feel like there's a difference between an entrepreneur and a founder.
Mm-hmm. Explain that.
I feel like, and this is just where my thoughts are now, or where they used to be. I think they're constantly evolving, but I always look at like, okay, entrepreneurs, you can start a business and you make money, and the goal is to like make more money than you're losing, essentially. And it's you can start a car wash business, you can start a driver service, you can be like, hey, look, I'm starting a delivery company. There's a lot of things you can start as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a founder, and the ethos that I believe when I think about a founder, I think about founders as like people who think about their business as something that is like 10, 100x quickly. Founders, and maybe I'm just so far in tech that I'm like, look, there's a founder of, a mic company or whatever. But like, I'm thinking about it from a perspective of like, founder in my eyes, it's like you're creating the next Apple, Airbnb, Google. Like an entrepreneur has a few cars and they pick people up. A founder creates fucking Uber, and has $70 billion valuations. And like somebody put in a 5K check when it was worth 15, 30 mil is making, tens of millions of dollars in 8 years, right? We're talking about not just the scale of a business. We're also looking at the impact and then the time to impact, right? Like, so you go from like idea to, oh, wow, 20 years, I'm $1 trillion company.
Right.
You know, and like that, like, you know, 8 years we're a tens of billions of dollars company. And that to me is like, that's a different mindset.
That's a different level of scaling. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if the average person can conceptualize how difficult that is, or what goes into scaling something at that level.
Yes.
You know? And it's and for somebody like yourself, you know, I'll follow with this question. So obviously your parents were very instrumental in building you and to introduce you to entrepreneurship at such a young age. How do you think that shaped you and developed you as you were growing up and looking into, you know, as your career?
I think that, you know, my dad was into technology. I remember being at the first iPhone launch, and I didn't know what an iPhone was.
Wrapped around the line.
Yeah, I was at AT&T, or
I used to work
Singular.
there.
Oh, back in the day, was it Singular when you were working?
I was at AT&T. It was already there. It was already AT&T. Yeah.
Okay, it was. So I think it was. I can't remember. I think it was Singular transitioning to AT&T, and so I was like, wow, people are intense. The news is out here. You know, you get like a option between a 2, 4, and 8 gigabyte phone or whatever. Yep. And I remember my dad saying, no, this company Apple, and they're releasing a phone, and it's a really big deal. And I'm in South Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, wow, I feel like seeing that at a young age was like, wow, I'm seeing not just something cool and different. Because when you're a kid, now it becomes the normal, right? It's like, okay, my dad always had like a Palm Pilot or Blackberries or whatever. But I was like, wow, this is different. But to see people camp outside, that level of enthusiasm and impact, that like ordinarily people think you can create or manifest that type of energy in the world through music or entertainment, but you can do it with technology and make a lot of fucking money. Yep. You know, like you have a certain freedom and ability to go in so many directions. And so that was my dad, and my mom was always so encouraging. Both of them were, but my mom always so encouraging of the ideas. If I had an idea, she always encouraged me to pursue it and provided me with whatever, right? To really just now I'm into I'm just much more know that I'm much more of an artist than anything. And so throughout my career of making products and coding and designing, I was always writing music. I was always, because like in my view, right, a modern day backpack rapper would be a tech founder that dropped out, right? And so
that would make sense.
You know, and so
I could see that.
Yeah. And so a lot of the things, like she even recently connected me with this pastor who's like Grammy Award winner producer. And like, he's up here in Atlanta, and I just go up to his house. He's like 45 minutes away, and we'll just cook. But my mom's always been one to be like, you know, back when I was in high school and I had ideas for a program or a nonprofit or whatever, I'm talking through the pitch with her, right? Or I'm like talking through it with my dad. And so I feel like they encourage me to believe I can do anything. Mm-hmm. And like, it is what it is. Your ideas are important.
You know, that's very powerful, man. And not to cut you off, but that's extremely powerful, because I know so many Black and brown kids that don't get that at home. And it's not because of that the parents don't want to give it to them. It's that they don't have it. They don't have the knowledge. They don't know how to do that. So to hear that story of like how just encouraging your parents were, man, they prepared you for this moment. They really prepared you to really walk into this, because they allowed you to practice. Like you grew up practicing your pitch. You grew up practicing how to put together a pitch deck. Even if you didn't really put together a deck, you still had to think about it critically, which challenged you to have to develop that skill set. So as time goes on, you just get better and better and better. And that's I love hearing that, man. That's awesome.
And I always tell people, I say there's a compounding effect of knowing how to do the thing you want to do.
Yep.
There's a compounding effect to knowing how to articulate a vision. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't get it that one time, the more you learn how to articulate a vision, the better it is you get to be able to communicate that, not just to an investor, but to the harder part. Now that I'm on the other side of raising money, I mean, we're always raising, but it's that to bring on the team, right? And having these like really passionate, energized people. Like, how do you get energizing instead of excitement. I feel like a lot of times, especially in our community, we be getting excited about an idea. And excitement, it's like it goes like this, and then it's just like,
it's an emotion.
Yes.
It's an emotion that doesn't get you anywhere in life. I ain't say anywhere, but like,
but it doesn't get you.
It doesn't get you much.
It doesn't get you much. It might get you into the moon, but it's like, I remember this one kid, and I met him years ago, and he had ended up like, I don't know if he got on drugs or whatever, because he seemed a little off, but I happened to run into him in Miami, and then he kept pressing me to like link up. I linked up with him, and he didn't even realize that I didn't realize who he was. So I got there again. I was like, oh, I know you. I met you 4 or 5 years ago, and you left me on red, but I didn't let him know.
You didn't tell.
And at the end, he kind of clicked for him, which I was like, something's off about you. But that day he had met, earlier that day, he had met Kanye West. And I was just like, he was telling me about these ideas or whatever. And I was like, this is wild, because you're a person who has so much excitement. You go to places and you have that thing where you run into people. I have that thing too. Like last week I ran into Damon John, then I ran into Ray J, like in the span of 2 days.
That's
very,
crazy.
very random. But I was like, this dude has a thing, but he's never prepared.
Right.
Never prepared. So like you get these opportunities and you don't know, you're not able to grasp them. So it's just like, I just urge people to always just like, yo, sometimes it's painful to like learn the code, or maybe you're not learning the code, but learning to design. Yep. Or, like maybe, okay, you figuring out how to design and articulate a vision. I feel like it's the bare minimum if you want to go found a tech company.
Right.
Like bare minimum. You don't have to code, but like at least like know something. Yeah, like something like,
or be resourceful enough to know what happened or how to get it done.
Yes,
that part.
Yes.
And I want to ask you about that, because there are a lot of people that are trying to get into the tech space, but don't have a tech background, or they don't know. So, do you know of any unique ways to break into the tech industry if you're not a coder?
Yeah, so there's a couple of interesting ways, right? There's because I have a friend from back we was friends in like grade school, Christian. He's trying to break into tech. He's like, look, I'm tired of like working like some of these 9-to-5 jobs, whatever. And, interested in more like, look, remote work or just breaking into tech. And for him, it's like, okay, he has a skill set of sales and operations. And like, it's like, all right, so what I've done is like, there's the person here in Atlanta. I wish I knew her last name so I could plug her, but Lauren, I know she's part of Forbes, the culture stuff. And then there's the Atlanta Tech Circle, but she helps people place into different sales and tech roles, tech sales stuff. And you can make anywhere between 60 to 150K. You know what I'm saying? But it's a great way to break in.
Income. Yeah,
exactly. You can break in, and now you get to, once you have that, like, oh, boom, I worked at X tech company. Now it's like, it's fairly easy to start like, oh, I'm at Facebook making 200, 300K, because you can start getting, oh, I want to be a PM now. And there's a lot of different avenues. Another one is a friend of mine I recently met, Chandler Moore, I believe. He started a startup that literally helps Black and brown people place into tech jobs, and tech roles, and really helps people like, all right, like this is what you need to know. Like, because most of us have these skills to get placed into the workforce.
Right.
But on the founder side, right, I think that we can talk about investors too, but on the founder side, I really think for me, I was watching videos of YC Startup School on YouTube in high school. Mm-hmm. I was building iOS and Android games, teaching myself how to code and design. I was mostly homeschooled, right? I could talk about school and stuff later, but I was really just watching these people who would later become investors. Sam Altman, the president, former president, chairman of Y Combinator. I would watch, Alexis Ohanian small business stuff, the founder of Reddit talking about, here how these businesses work. And I would just go online and I would just learn. And so it's really free. And then you take it another step, you learn how to go. You got Instagram and Twitter, especially for tech people, and LinkedIn. Go create profiles and ask people questions. Have a virtual coffee. I still do virtual coffees now because I'm hiring. So I meet people and I say, oh, I'm looking for a backend engineer, blah, blah. It doesn't matter if I want to pay somebody 120K or 200K. It's still hard to find great people. And so you got to go.
No matter what level you at. It doesn't matter what level of business you at. It's still hard to find good people.
It's really, really hard. It's like, and it don't matter. Like we have $2,500 referral bonuses. If we hire somebody who's a friend, it still is hard. Because you also got to remember, it's like in tech, there's so much money going around. So you're like, oh, $25, whatever, right? I just made $40K on a stock bonus for a lot of Facebook, Google engineers and stuff. So, but anyway, on the founder side, I really feel like it's like a combination of online and really just like, you might not be able to talk to the founder of like, I don't know, Sony or whatever, but you can talk to somebody who work at Sony pretty easy. You can.
There you go. And I've always said that to people, like if you're trying to not say break into, but have the conversation, whether you're trying to just ask for just advice, wisdom, whatever you want, you may not be able to get to the top guy, but somebody in that organization that's close to them, you can get to because they're a lot more accessible.
Yeah, they are. And you literally can, the harder part that took me a minute is like the social cues and as well as like how you construct an email, right? It's like, look, we don't need to be all this. You don't need to know your life story. Keep it simple. Hey, like if I was trying to figure out how to get a job at Naughty Dog, it's one of my favorite game studios ever. I mean, actually, I tried to be a game tester when I was 13. I emailed all the studios and I was too young to like play like 17 plus games or whatever. But I would say, hey, X person, I'll look up who works there or whatever. I'll be like, all right, let me email a few of them. Hey, my name's Vernon. I'm super interested in this. Say something positive. Really love the Naughty Dog franchise and what y'all have done. Would love to, I'll be in your city or happy to hop on do a virtual coffee. I'm really interested in doing X, Y, or Z and would love to just understand more about the path. If a call doesn't work for you, happy to send the questions async and a short email, if that's okay. You really just gave the person a compliment, two options of like, oh, I don't want to talk to this person. Yep. Cool. But most people will be like, oh, fuck it. Like because what you're signaling is you respect their time.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know how to signal. It's one thing to say, I respect your time. It's another thing to signal that you respect somebody's time.
And that's important because when you actually take ownership of your own time, you learn just as a byproduct to respect other people's time. Because you like, you know what? If they're going to take me serious, I have to make sure that I present myself to let them know, hey, I respect your time. So anything you give me, I'm appreciative of that.
Yep.
And that's it's so many small things that you pick up as you just kind of go through, your professional career. And, those are things that some people don't grasp until it's too late.
It's like, yo, like it's one thing to know like, okay, you can get to these people, but then it's like, okay, you actually have to know how to communicate when you're sending these communications and like, okay, like, and then there's a whole other side of the public persona of like, that you can craft and stuff. And like, I have thoughts there. I'm trying to change that a little bit just because artistically, I'm not as big of a fan on the way tech Twitter people gain clout, but that's just my,
Twitter Spaces has become a huge thing now. And a lot of tech people are flocking over it. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's like Clubhouse, of course, but it's like, it's that niche. Like Twitter definitely captured. So the whole Elon Musk buyout kind of makes sense. I don't know what he's going to do with Twitter, but as far as like where Twitter seems to be heading, it definitely seems to be veering off into a tech space. Yeah. Or being more dominant by tech users.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what's happening is there's a big shift in which everybody is starting to realize, I can't name them none of TikToks or Reels or professional, whatever, gurus or whatever. That's like, yo, like get into tech. So there's two things happening. One is people want to earn more money for multiple reasons. One, it's just nicer to have more money and not be like paycheck to paycheck. Two is inflation. Three is that more companies are expanding, right? Microsoft, Airbnb, Twilio, Walmart, Nike, all of these, Apple in North Carolina, like all these companies are coming to Atlanta, Charlotte, right? And now you're seeing a shift where it's like, oh, shoot, like there's thousands of opportunities here. So not only are there more tech needs to hire more people, but also people are looking for more flexible, higher earning jobs with benefits.
Right.
And when Apple, a company that has $400-500 billion in cash reserves, it doesn't, they can say, hey, cool, we'll pay you the same amount of the people are getting paid in California.
Right. It doesn't matter.
Imagine making $200K in South Carolina, dude. What are you going to do?
Crazy money. And people who actually work in corporate, I've learned this as I've kind of like grown and just kind of gone through. It's a lot easier to switch companies to make more money than to get promoted internally.
Yep.
For whatever reason, companies don't seem to value their own. Not say they don't value, but they don't have to pay you top dollar because, well, you're already in the system. But somebody coming outside of their own company, they tend to get a lot better offers. So if you're the type of corporate person to jump around, that's how you can make $1.
Yep. Literally, it's like, look, 18 to 24 months at a place, switch.
Yep.
Like you're actually, it's like, I think there's a statistic, like after 2 or 3 years, you're actually hurting your earnings potential because you're actually making less money in a way, because it's like, oh, like you're cool. They gave you a 3 or 5% pay bump.
Right.
You would have got if you had hopped in your 18 months twice by now, you would have earned 50% more.
Yep.
And
because all you got to do is just find the opportunity. The jobs are there. You just got to go look for them.
Exactly. And that's another thing. People be looking to get jobs, like, oh, I'm applying. But it's like, have you talked to anybody at this company?
Right.
Have you reached out to anybody at this company? Have you talked? All
you got to do is the board of directors is there onto most company websites, or call in.
Yep. Yeah.
Something as simple as that.
You can literally find like, okay, cool. Like Google's a big company. You might not be able to access the board of directors, but you can access like a PM or like there's so many, or like work your network. Like people be thinking like, oh, I don't have this, but it's like, my brother told me this one thing after I dropped out. I dropped out of college my fourth year.
Senior year?
Yeah. I moved to the most expensive city in America. I moved to San Francisco, and I dropped out of UC Santa Cruz. And it was the belief I had of Realtime and what I believe for the world, and that I would make it happen. And I tried to raise money for over a year, couldn't do it. And I think there's a multitude of reasons it didn't happen, but I eventually figured it out in the pandemic. But my brother, I would always call him, like, hey, I need $50, like my little brother. So he does real estate investment, and he's done millions of dollars in real estate investment. And he has like probably 14 Airbnbs and flips and all that type of stuff. And so I need $50, for Uber. So I'd be borrowing money from people, like getting $50 here.
He was hustling. Yeah,
mind you, I left school with debt, right? Not a little bit of debt. I'm out of state. You know what out of state is? 60, 65K a year.
I went to a private school, bro. I know what it is.
So it's like, I'm real. I don't like to use the C word, but I'm real out there. Yeah. I'm real confident. I use that C word. I'm real confident. So people mistake, I call it Afro confidence. And why I put the Afro on it is because Afro confidence is often mistaken for ego and narcissism, because it's like, as an African-American, as a Black person, as anybody of Afro descent, what the perception of our confidence is ego and narcissism, because we're usually the only person in our space that's at that level, doing at that level. And so we have to create a world mentally where we are the best, because we actually are the best. It was actually harder. Yeah. So, that's just something I'm dumb in Afro confidence, because it's like, no, y'all get confused with the ego. But bottom line is, I borrowed this money from my brother, and he told me, he's like, you never have a lack of, at one point he just said, it's never a lack of resources, Vernon. It's always a lack of resourcefulness. And when I really like that mantra, people talk about having mantras when you are doing something. I have a mantra right now in a creative process, right? Like, this is not about me. Like I might have a few mantras in something I'm creating, but that really helped me, because it was like, wait a minute. Like, you got to work hard. And sometimes you put in a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, and be like, dang, it's like that one J. Cole line. Good news is, nigga, you came a long way. The bad news is you went the wrong way.
Yep. Oh, man. Oh, love yours. by J. Cole. Man, man, don't get me started on Cole. Because I had to that specific line, bro. When I left AT&T, because I was going through like a career shift. Yeah. Because I was starting to get to a point where I'm like, I need to jump. It's time to jump. I'm feeling that that antsiness. Like I can't do the corporate thing no more. I got to leave. And I listened to that song and that line. I internalized like, dang, like I did go the wrong way. Did I go the wrong way? Like I spent so much time. I spent years of my life here. Like I learned a lot, but like this wasn't it. Yeah. And so, that line, man, don't get me started on Cole, bro. It's real. He carried me through college. Yes. I got through because of Cole.
Amen. Dude, it's wild. It's like music is and that's why I feel like working on the music in the sense of like providing this feel of like, yo, like I could put together lines where it's like 30 for 30, 30 under 30, 30 mil valuation, and y'all still can't hurt me. That's and like real. You put that on the right beat,
it's fire.
It's because that's all happened. Like in the span of like a couple of weeks, I was like, this is crazy.
That's a nice line.
Yeah, it's like, but music can be a feel and an energy that we can transmit. Because tech people be writing blog posts. I think that's great. But you know what travels faster in the stream of culture and consciousness? Music, art,
bro,
visuals.
I say this all the time, man. Music expresses things that our hearts can't. That's what music is. Like there's somebody out here who has a gift, right? To write. That's their gift. And their gift is to be able to express like this, like my soul can't say that, but I understand it. I feel it. That's what music is. It touches people wherever they are, no matter what, and you can interpret it all different kinds of ways. So, I used to play trumpet. I played for a long time, but so I get the music thing, man. I understand it. It's that third eye, and musicians, they have this weird creativity, and I get clowned all the time for being a band geek or whatever, because I played at Morehouse. But I'll tell you this though, a lot of the cats I went to school with now, years later, they're still like that third eye. You can see it in whatever work they're doing, that creativity. They got to have it because it's a weird expression that you just got to get out in some way in your life, whether it's a hobby, your full-time job, you have got to create because you feel stifled if you don't.
Yep. And if you don't, I've noticed some of my ideas like that I just didn't put out. It's like, bro, like then somebody else does it. And then people be like, oh, you're like so-and-so. And it's just like, you not having the confidence to act on an idea or a vision is actually more harmful. And like, I think it's really hard, especially, not only it's like, okay, boom, Black person in tech, but also it's like, bro, you're a creative. So because you're not just, I met somebody the other night and he just came up to me. He was like, oh, did that? And I find out he was an engineer. I'm like, oh, sweet. I'm looking to hire him.
Right.
And he's like asking about who I am and and he just goes to me and said, so you're a genius. And I was like, well, it's better when you say it. So I said, but this aspect of being able to be multifaceted, right? And so with product, I'm great with product. I can make things that people love and use. And I didn't realize how rare of a talent that was, especially without the quote unquote experience or stuff like that. But when you could take when you're creating a product and put that into music, it's like, I love the sky. I don't know what it is about it. I'm inspired by the sky and inspired by it visually and energetically. I think it captures the values of what I want Realtime to deliver to people, which is authentic interaction, egalitarianism, being yourself, and something about this aspect of that we're all beings of light. And when you come to the sky, you're yourself, right? And so I could take that concept, I did, and put that into product design, but also I can go and be like, meet me in the sky right now. I am so alive right now. I can never die right now. Meet me in the sky right now. Like, and make a whole...
That's a hook.
Yeah, that's a whole scene around a vision and a visual.
Hey, I'm going to post that clip. Somebody's going to remix it and throw a beat behind it, and it's going to go viral.
Bet, let's go. Dude, it's such a like, I love being able to express an idea in multiple facets. And you could do that in a company. And so that's what I want more people to realize. It's like, you can be creative, but if you create software, bro, you raise a $10 million Series A, or hell, you raise $4 million. You know what I mean? Visions and ideas you can get out that an artist just like can't actually get out yet because they got to go get signed and hustle.
Right.
You can use that as your branding.
Yes. It's and I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, younger entrepreneurs now, are starting to think like that, because a lot of the ideas that we see are just regurgitated stuff. Like, it's not for us. It's not for our generation. We speak a completely different language. We grew up with iPads, CDs, MP3s, into iPhones. So our generation really grew up during a tech boom. Yeah. And so now that I would say our generation, millennials, we're now starting to become the leaders in a lot of these companies. And we're realizing that, one, we can't manage Gen Zers the same as we were managed. And then, like, you got the baby boomers who are almost at the retirement age and they hate us because they think we don't like to work. Or is it we just don't accept bullshit?
Right.
Like,
because so I'm like at the tail end of Gen Z, and it's like, I'm like, yo, it's interesting because I can't speak on millennials as much, but Gen Z is interesting. And I'll give my hot take real quick.
Yeah, let's get
Gen Z is it can be sometimes so concerned with a boundary around their time.
I will say that
they don't. It's like, bro, you got to put in the work, and sometimes you got to put in the work and not get paid. And sometimes you got to go, if you play a corporate game, you have to be fucking likable. If you're not likable, why
they're not going to do anything?
Promote you? Like, it shouldn't be based on that. It should be based on skill set. You know what happens? Yes, obviously skill set matters, and it's like to drive results. But you know what people spend? How many hours a day does people spend working? 8 to 10 hours a day, really? Mm-hmm. So most of their days they spend in working. And guess what? When they promote you, they're going to be working with you. So why would somebody who has the power to choose who they work with pick somebody they don't want to see every day?
Right. And they can't, and that's one of the lessons I learned on the opposite end of that. One of my mentors, he told me, he says, Josh, you're likable, but that's just going to get you in the door. That's not going to keep you there. Yeah. And it's the same thing. If you don't have to be fake to be likable. Like, you don't have to change who you are to be likable. You just got to be a good person.
Yep. And another part on my generation, my some of my feelings, right? And just what I've observed, stop caring about the fucking clout.
Yeah.
We optimize for the clout as opposed to the dollar. And so we'll say, you know what? I want to go do this thing over here because it got more of a name brand, or it has, that's a celebrity. I don't care if I'm making less, 80% less or 50% less. I'm about to get a picture with it. Guess what? If you're valuable, you could start a creative agency. You could be a tech founder. You could be just valuable and doing, again, back to what I said in the beginning, the compounding of skill set and doing stuff. You know what happens when you get in a room with Damon John? Oh, you coming in not on some like, boom, let me get a picture. But you actually have something to offer. You actually are establishing your own right. You're your own person. You know what happens when you go meet a creative or an artist like Mr. Easy? You're like, oh, cool. You can talk on some tech stuff.
Right.
Not just
it's a different conversation.
It's a different conversation.
It's not the same conversation. When you start to, it goes back to taking your own business and your own career seriously. So whether you working for yourself or working for somebody else, if you don't take your own self seriously, you can't expect anybody else to. That bleeds into being likable, being approachable, being coachable. I don't think a lot of Gen Zers are coachable. I think it's, I think it's, my personal opinion on that is, I don't know if it's laziness or if it's just people constantly like not being super sensitive. Like you said, the whole boundary thing. Like, this impedes on my rights to do this. And I'm like, dude, like you're missing the point here. Nothing beats hard work.
Yeah,
you gotta grind. Like, I don't care how you feel about it. When the cookie crumbles, it's about the work you put in. So if you want to go chill and have those boundaries, I'm cool with that because I'm gonna outwork you on the other end while you over here chilling, drinking mimosas. I'm out here plugging away on a website or doing something else.
Yep. And in time, like it's like our head of operations, she was a vice president at a company and she had great offers. She took a pay cut to join the company. But guess what? Besides articulating the vision and saying, hey, you should join this company. You know how many interviews I had to go through? I had to look through probably 200, 250 resumes. I had to interview probably about 40, 50 people. Then that got down to 3 finalists, and she was the one who was still picked. And so what I mean by that is like, I tell my team, hiring is a numbers game. If we have not been reaching out, having conversations, it's not just going to magically happen. Like right. It's in a world where you might read that on somewhere, but guess what? Those people went to schools where there is typically grade A level, not just talent, but like the ability to take risks. So a Stanford kid isn't only like, boom, they're talented, but they've also been, Stanford don't breed job creators, or Stanford doesn't breed people who go into the workforce. Stanford breeds job creators. Guess what? Stanford's thinking about like a first principle thought. If the goal is to get more alumni money, more higher endowments, well, who makes more money? The job creator or the job seeker? Wait, if we create more job creators, you have an ecosystem. Yeah. And so I was just thinking about this literally like 2 days ago. But my point in that is just like when you don't have like, oh, boom, mommy and daddy have millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, you could always just fall back, or you're tapped into a network of people who are presidents and secretaries and top level actors and top tech founders, you're going to have to put in more work. Mm-hmm. It's just a reality. And so I feel like my generation wants, the other part of this is the way in which social media controls us. I've done a lot of studying on this. And like, for me, I don't even like to say real-time social media because we don't produce media. We're a network, but we don't produce media. And so what media does is it controls you to think. I remember creating a random Instagram account and going to the Discover section. I was like, wow, they're selling me so many things. They're selling me this idea of luxury. They're selling me this idea of sex. They're selling me this idea of all these visually, which is the strong receptor to the human brain. And so I know the standard is, people express their happy selves. But beyond that, what is happening is that we're thinking that, wow, like we can get this and like it should be instant the way I'm seeing it.
Right. We're inundated with it constantly. It's in our faces.
It's just like clout tracing, I swear, is the internet's fentanyl.
It is. And it's almost draining to see it. It's like, dang, like that's what you're doing. I've personally seen people switch their brands up and then they just start buying luxury cars and then they start, trying to like Ty Lopez their way through entrepreneurship, no shade to Ty or whatever, if I ever meet him, but I mean, he's pretty honest about what he does. And, I see that and I'm like, that's not authentic, man. That's just not
authentic. You're trying to follow a book and you're trying to get to this perception. What happened was the same way it's nice. The 6 white dudes that control media outlets, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, no longer were only ones giving us information. But you know what happened? We all turned into our own news outlet. And it's like, oh, well, instead of caring about clicks and ads, what do we care about?
Our own opinions.
Now you're optimizing for engagement. And so you start giving people the most cookie cutter. You know why CNN run a story over and over again? Because it sells, it works. It's how our minds are wired. And so people it's so toxic. And it's like, I think there's obviously a lot of other positive things about Gen Z and like my generation.
We ragging hard on Gen Z. No shade to Gen Z,
but
a little bit of shade. Just not too much.
Yeah, but I'm just like, yo,
keep it real though. Keep it real.
Like I'm not talking to you from a perspective of silver spoon and I raised $4 million from some of the best people in tech. I'm talking about somebody like I really had to
you had to figure that shit out.
Really in the middle of a pandemic, I had an acquisition offer and negative $500 in my account, and I still decided to bet on myself and my own ideas.
Talk about that experience. Like talk about what I want you to speak to specifically is what were you feeling at that point? And what were you going through mentally? Like what allowed you to either keep going? What did you want to stop? Like, were you scared? That's what I want you to speak to.
There's different times I wanted to stop. There's different times I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. But I know that the combination of, I feel one, I had people as like growing up, people would come up to me and say like, oh, you have a calling in your life, just random people. Right. And so I have this aspect of like, I feel certain, like God has always been with me to provide the resources. When I was applying to all these out of state schools and people said, why are you doing that? When they was going to try to put me in special needs and my mom took me out and made me go, had me in homeschool until like my last year of high school. Wow. When I, went out to Santa Cruz and started building apps and stuff like that, God's always given me the resources and the people and the energy to prove that I can do anything. Right. And so my whole thing was like, look, you know what? This company raised like a Series B. The CEO reached out to me. He said, hey, love to talk, get you a good press run, make a good amount of money. I've dropped out, have a lot of debt. These are not the most logical decisions. These are not but you know what?
Not the safe ones.
They're not the safe ones, but I did a lot of compound building stuff, putting stuff out. And I had been putting in the reps. I met Sam Altman at an Apple store because I had $100 in my account and I was going to change my AirPods out because I love music that much. Mm-hmm. And so I met Sam Altman and from there developed a relationship. 2 years later, he invests. And so what I was feeling in this moment was like, you know what? I believe that we can create something.
Yeah.
And, the whole, it's funny. Hopefully you can just do an intro or whatever of who I am.
I got you, bro. Yeah. We never got into that, but it's okay.
but the whole point of Realtime, like the thing I've always been passionate about is authenticity, community, and being able to express your creative self and not feel limited. I feel like there's creativity in all of us. And the more we tap into it, the more authentic we get. The more ability we get to be able to like know ourselves, and we build confidence. And confidence is the key to anything you want in life, anything your heart desires. You got the confidence, you're good.
Yeah. And so, have you ever met a confident liar? That you'll believe him.
That's a hard question. I guess so.
A confident liar, you'll believe him. You'll walk right behind him and go through a wall, and you look on the other side like, damn, he was lying the whole time.
Right? Like, yeah. But
why? Because
somehow that energy, people be like, oh, okay, like I'll follow, like you have, it creates this thing. And so I remember it's 2020. The whole idea of Realtime is, there's a button for transportation, it's Uber. There's a button for food, it's DoorDash. There's a button for renting people's houses, dating, home repairmen. And so I see this world as instant offline. There's this whole category called instant offline. And so I said, there should be an instant offline tool for communities. How do you go online to offline? And so that market is like, cool, you have, community is all stuck online right now. Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. And like the best versions of it are like a meetup or like a Facebook event or Eventbrite, but it's not instant offline. It's not tap a button and connect with your community. And so I said, there should be a way to do that. And that's where we got this idea from. And so we had tens of thousands of users. We had great retention. I'm talking high, we look at our quarterly cohorts, but also we were looking at day 3, day 7, day 28. Day 28 is the real metric that matters, right? Like, and so we're having really great retention.
Why does day 28 matter?
It's just typically after day 20, like just, I don't know if the term is statistics or probability, but bottom line is like with products, right? After day 28, that cohorts usually stay stuck. So like for us, I think we had like at that time, anywhere between 50 and 60 something percent day 28 retention. And what would happen is about 90% of that cohort after day 28 would stick 4 months later. And so you kind of just look at cohort analysis and you say like, if you're doing anything consumer, because I don't see this as a social thing, but anything consumer, you're looking at day 3, day 7, day 28 retention. Then you can look at time spent if you're a product with that thing, or you could look at it from how many connections are happening. There's a bunch of ways you can look at the metrics.
I want to talk about that just briefly. So what data points do you use to kind of guide you through, your decision making?
I mean, when it comes to the company day to day, it's like I'm looking at our retention cohorts. I'm looking at our sign up funnels, because so onboarding is a really big thing, right? Like I signed up, by the way, y'all. So y'all need to hop on. I signed up like 3 weeks ago. Hey, hop on Realtime, y'all. One word. And so, I'm looking at how many, what percentage of people are completing, but more so, how many people turn on notifications? How many people enable your contacts? Because guess what? You're building a network. Now, it's not a social network, but it's a network of communities. And so if people are not enabling their contacts, how am I introducing you to friends? If you're not adding friends, how are you building a network? One, if people are not turning on notifications, people don't have a habit in their head out of the 300 apps they have on their phone to go check your app. So you got to have notifications on. And so these very small things end up leading your retention metrics. I look at discoverability and posting. How many real times are people joining a day or a week? How many people are posting? Why are these people posting? What are the types of posters? And then last part is K factor. So obviously there's a bunch of other metrics, but sign up funnels and permissions enabling, retention, discoverability, AKA joins, postings, posting real times, and then I'm looking at your K factor. So K factor is taken from the medical field, but it's the rate in which a virus spreads, virality coefficient. And so when you start looking, okay, how many people is Vern bringing in? And so a good K factor at scale is 0.48. This is, when I met the founder of DoorDash several years ago, and he told me this. So maybe it's changed, but 0.48 is a good. I think in the beginning, your network your K factor should be each user is bringing in 1 to 3 users. So your K factor would be 1 to 3. But typically 0.48 would really be like for every 2 people, you bring in one of those people brings in 1 person. And so these metrics matter. But I also look at, when it comes to raising, right, just on the 4 mil thing, and I think if y'all search like Doxin, I think a version of our deck is up there. Doxin, Vernon Coleman, 4 mil, because I kind of break down some of these things. But we had less than 100 users on the platform. I went from thousands with all this great retention. It's the middle of back to the pandemic. It's we had less than 100 users, a shitty prototype we built in about 6 to 8 weeks. But I had a network.
That's what mattered.
And I knew the lexicon. The lexicon. So I didn't just have the network, but I was like, okay, this is what's happening right now. COVID's causing this shift. Gen Z wants to be more authentic. The college campus, there's a place for people to talk on Zoom. It's work. There's a place for people to hang out with their friends. It's house party. But how do you meet and interact with people? How do you replicate the lunchroom, the water cooler moments in a digital space? And that's what we're doing. And so I looked at time spent. I used time spent, and I used just the idea and the fact that we knew what the fuck we were doing.
I love that. How did you not come up with the idea, but how did you eventually get to a point where you were confident enough to just pitch your stuff? What gave you the confidence to do that?
I still get, even though I had my parents instill this confidence in me, and I had been doing stuff, in high school, because I started building iOS and Android games by myself, putting them out into the App Store, and I would pitch ideas. I still get nervous. When talking to somebody. Now I'm starting to run into a lot more celebrities and stuff, but I'm learning even, and I have different resources. I talk about things with people to help me overcome things, including my therapist, including friends. And so, how do I overcome this? Because I'm going to run into more famous people.
Got to face your.
I ran into a couple, a month or two ago, I ran into John Legend, but I couldn't say anything because I got nervous. But it's wait a minute. Devo is Kanye West's cousin. Devo introduced Kanye West and John Legend. I could have easily gone up to John Legend and be like, oh, John, let me take a picture and send this to Devo. Devo's part of the reason John, back in the 2000s. So
yeah.
I already had it in.
Yeah, I'm a diehard John Legend fan, so I didn't know who that person was, but I know how John Legend got put on. I didn't know that's how he met Kanye.
Yes, and so Kanye would stay at Devo's house and stuff because Devo was in Jersey City, and so I know Devo because Devo's a tech founder, and I met him, didn't have any money, but I was going to the same place he was going. So guess what? I said, boom, let's just hop in an Uber together. I'll get it.
Wow.
But a lot of times people be like, oh, building relationships, there's always
it's that simple. It's just putting yourself out there. That's simple. Just, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to that person. Exactly. Because you never know. You never know.
You really don't. And so that's why, like, even back to the job, it's like people be like, oh, I applied, or oh, I did this. But it's like, are you talking to anybody? If you're not talking to anybody, you're not really
You're not promoting your business. No.
Yeah, you're not promoting your business, you're not promoting yourself. Nobody knows who you are. You are literally a node. Ignore a node.
That's real. That's real. How do you see your brand or your business implementing into the metaverse?
The metaverse has been here. The metaverse is essentially just your digital identity. That's right. What I think it is. Yeah. The blockchain lets you own your digital identity in a way you can't right now on Instagram, the Twitter, all these metaverses we play in now, video games. You don't own it, right? And so therefore you can't go to other places with it. You can't transact with it. The company owns it. And so I think that, for us, I look at, we're about to, probably by the time this comes out, we'll start rolling out the beta testing, but we're working on this thing called Sky. And Sky takes the best ideas of real-time video and the best ideas of real-time in person, and it enables people to enter this metaverse of being their authentic selves and owning that part of their identity, and also being able to take that, instantly offline. And so for us, I think that metaverses can come in so many different ways. It doesn't just have to be like a video game avatar. It's really just about owning your digital identity.
That's all it is. Because I think people have this misconception just because of the lack of knowledge about, crypto and the metaverse. It's just so much opaque to people. But all it is, like, nobody's going to meet into a digital room and we're all in there. That's not how this works. Now, Facebook can do that because they're Facebook. But generally speaking, like you just said, Facebook only has Facebook's metaverse. So when people speak about metaverse, it's not a bunch of different metaverses. It's only one. It's not only one, but it's some created concept that man said exists that really doesn't. Like the terminology of it. But in reality, what's really happening is people are uploading themselves digitally, whether it's through a game, whether it's through NFTs, videos, music. That's essentially what people are doing in a certain space. Yep.
And all that's going to happen is it's literally just going to be to where you're going to be, since it's like Connect Wallet is the sign-in, you're going to be able to connect wallet into another. For instance, if you were to, if Instagram was on the blockchain, you would be able to, instead of sign up, you would just connect wallet. All your data would be stored there. And if there was an app called Insta Wavy, and you're like, I like that interface better, you just go to that, connect wallet, and all the data's there.
Right. Because your wallet carries, your personal wallet is what carries the data. I like it better because now the companies don't have all your logins. It's more secure. Yeah, that whole nine. I want to get into the Econix tenant. I gotta let you go because I know we only got an hour. But before that, I would like for you to just explain what Realtime is and why somebody would join Realtime and what it can do for them.
Yeah. So, Realtime is really a way to instantly go offline and meet new people, as well as meet the people you already have nearby. It's the most efficient social communication tool that exists.